We should be live, and I bet it's going to be Chris. It's going to show up in our chat room here.
All right.
I'm just waiting for it to actually show on the screen.
Why can I get this to work?
It's on. Let's do this thing.
All right.
Welcome to Disturbed. We're talking episode 4 of season 8. Could it be Satan? I'm Rob Southgate. With me is
Chris Mao.
Hey, Chris, finally.
Yes, I know, finally.
Finally. All my fault too. I want to fess up. I know I put it on our social media, but I got so sick. Literally, when we recorded the last time, it was 2 weeks ago on Thursday night. Friday morning, I got up. I'm like, okay, edited the show really fast, went upstairs. My wife said, what the hell is wrong with you? And I was like, well, I don't know. I don't feel great. She goes, in bed. Now, this never happens. I never get sick like this. In fact, we were reminiscing out of the 32 years she's known me. This is only the third time I've been anywhere close to like sick. The other one happened a year ago, yes, which derailed season 7 for us. So pretty weird, but maybe this one was terrible.
Maybe it's Brad Falchuk's fault.
It is. But it's very strange. And it is absolutely when my voice sounds the way it does. And literally, like, I couldn't get out of bed for pretty much for 10 days. And then I was still sick. I'm still dealing with it. I'm still on the medicine for strep. And if you look in there, I'm not going to show you, but it's pretty nasty. So at least we got it together. I watched 3 episodes today. We are 1 away from being completely caught up. We'll catch up by next episode, and then we're all good. Everything's solid. But let's jump into it. Although first, Chris, why don't you give your social media?
Absolutely. I can be found at the Blue Box Cafe or Blue Box Cafe 176 on social media. Also at GeeksCon with a Z.
GeeksCon, yeah. And then you can follow me at R Southgate or follow the show on Twitter at DisturbedPod, or you can, that's at the screen here too. Anyone watching, it's at the bottom. Or you can also find us on Facebook under Disturbed Podcast. You can find us under SMG Pods. You can find us under Southgate Media Group. You can also send us an email at, send it to, Southgate Media Group at gmail.com. That goes right to me. And yeah, man, I mean, just start typing in Southgate Media Group, Disturbed. It's going to show up on all these different platforms. We have Instagram, we have a Patreon, we have just all sorts of stuff. So that's how you get in communication with us, and we love it. And we do have somebody in the chat room. They haven't said anything yet, but as soon as they do, we will start chatting as well. So, Chris, episode 4, end of the last episode. Everybody's dead. And then everybody's pretty much dead. But Cordelia, Madison, and Myrtle show up, and they resurrect Mallory, Coco, and Dinah.
Right.
And in the other room, we know we have the robot Mead and we have Langdon.
Yes.
And then everybody else is dead.
Yes.
So this was crazy. I mean, this was like, even though I don't think they needed to reboot, I think they were saying, here's the setup, here's the setup, here's the setup. Oh, it has nothing to do with this. They've done this to us before.
Yes.
But man, this was amazing.
Well, they kind of go back to, they came in, they did it, the witches showed up, and now they're going to start to explain, I think, the real...
Yeah, what's really going on.
But yeah, the season. And hopefully without the Roanoke BS, where they just kind of switch gears. Oh, we're going to do 4 episodes, and then we're just going to change it up. So
yeah, right.
But it's good.
I kind of doubt that's where we're going. I think we've got a storyline that's really starting to take shape here. I loved the one comment. Who knew it was going to be witches and warlocks at the end of the world? The show started with Mead and Langdon. We find out that Mead... Now, I thought Mead raised Langdon from what they showed, but we're going to find out in later episodes that that's not 100% true. But we do see that she was with him during his formative years.
Yeah. Well, she was raising him when he appeared to be a little bit younger. And, as we talk about this more in the show, right before he goes to the school, the Hawthorne School for Gifted Young Men, or talented, is it talented young men? Exceptional young men.
Yeah, exceptional young men.
Exceptional young men. So
yeah, because basically I want to make a T-shirt out of that. So
right,
the Hawthorne School for Exceptional Young Men.
Doesn't it sound like an X-Men ripoff though?
Oh, totally.
So, it's fantastic. But they kind of cover him that he ends up going to this school. It's basically a warlock school, much like, is it Mrs. Robideau? Is that the name from Coven?
Yeah, Robideau.
But this is for male witches.
We're saying it wrong, but we know what it means.
But we know, yeah, exactly. And so they are very interested in Langdon because he obviously has some power. And then he goes to school, and that's what this episode's about. What happens?
Yeah. Okay. It's funny because I thought we'd have a ton to talk about with this episode. There really isn't that much. My notes that I took were pretty nominal. But it was such a fun episode. Learning about Langdon and Meade, finding out what she said, I'm the devil mama. I mean, come on. I love Kathy Bates, and she is killing it.
Oh yeah, she's fantastic. So, and that starkness of her appearance with the black hair and the very pale and the red the lips, it's really good. And she's really good at this role.
We had the I know what we got in this. After that first part, we found out there's like this whole warlock thing. Now, I told you before, I didn't watch Coven.
Right.
I need to go back and watch that. Did they show the warlocks at all in that?
To be honest with you, I cannot remember. I can't. I don't think they touch about it because they talk about the voodoo thing, and then they got into the whole Kathy Bates. I can't think of her name off the top of my head. Madame LeBeau kind of thing. So I think they just focus on that because the dynamic of Coven was about Jessica Lange's character Fiona being the supreme witch and her daughter coming into power, who is Cordelia. And so it was that whole dynamic where Jessica Lange did not want to give up power, but Cordelia was obviously on her way to do it. And that was that kind of whole dynamic.
Right.
And what went out that in the hierarchy between the witches and what was happening. And, Madison and and Misty and all the people that they brought in and did all that stuff with. So that was about that. They may have mentioned the warlocks, but I can't remember.
The little bit that I saw of that season, I did not see warlocks at all. No. I loved this. I loved it. It was like they went to the boys' school for the witches, and it reminded me a little Harry Potter-ish.
Oh, yeah.
They had the Grand Chancellor of the Warlocks, and we also found out in this one that no male has been a supreme.
Right.
And even though I thought this was great when he's like, there's no reason that they haven't, it's just they haven't. And if they pass the 7 wonders test,
correct,
we have a male supreme. Right. And this was interesting. I actually got lost in some of this. They did this. This was all a flashback.
Mm-hmm.
But then they showed occasionally things with the witches, which made me start all of a sudden going out of time and thinking, wait a minute. Oh, yeah, that's right. We're still in the past, even though it was the same witches that were there. Right. The scene when they first find Langdon and they're watching the video and he's getting interrogated, and you see the cop go to the ceiling. The cop comes down and goes, I'm sorry. And then his head explodes. That was crazy.
It was crazy. So, I mean, he's obviously a very powerful witch, warlock, whatever, however you want to call it. Yeah. Well, they say warlock, but I think they, not to give a spoiler, they refer to them as witches also in later episodes. But yeah, it's kind of amazing the power that he apparently has, which you would think a guy who
and up till now we haven't really seen.
No,
we saw the scene with him and Madison. No, was it Madison? No, Mallory.
Right.
When Mallory, when he pushed Mallory a little too hard in the questioning, she brushed him back, and we went, "Oh wait, she's got this power."
Right.
And then we saw his face kind of turn, and he pushed back. It was like, okay, well, he's got power too. What's going on?
Right.
Now we know he's a wizard,
right?
Or he's a warlock. I'm going to get this wrong every time.
You're a wizard, Harry. Waiting for Hagrid to show up and be like, yeah, Dumbledore to come in and just be like, yeah, whatever.
The only thing looking Hagrid here is me.
Have you seen me? Oh my gosh, it's horrible.
Oh yeah, it's a train wreck. So So
you just insulted trains, I think.
sorry, trains. Sorry, Thomas. Ooh, ooh. That's my sad Thomas sound. So I didn't know I had one. Another thing I thought was really cool is we found out what the building is. This was so cool.
Right.
When they came up on it, it's that Spiral is just sitting out there, and then he's like, yeah, they burned our school to the ground when they found out about witches, and all that was left was this sculpture, so we went underneath it. I thought that made all of that makes so much sense. I couldn't figure out why this structure was the structure they had, for the apocalypse. None of that made sense. That made sense.
Now it does, and why they have it and why it survived, and
it also starts to make sense more why certain people were there. It had nothing to do with the elite and all the stuff that we were saying before. These were people that were handpicked to be part of this warlock witch showdown.
I don't know about that because Langdon
expressed the witch put the witches there.
Oh yeah, no, they did. Absolutely. It's not from Langdon's point of view, it's from the other point of view that happened. So
yeah. And the other people, I mean, they might have thought they were part of whatever it was. They got caught up in it. Maybe we'll find out later that they were pawns in this game as well.
Sure.
So let's see what happens then.
Well, they find Langdon. He proves that he's a very strong warlock, and they have
those tests.
They do tests. It's very much like Harry Potter, where they show the opening scene of the school is where there's some boys doing there's some younger boys or younger men doing some magic, and they're not paying attention, and they forget their school books and all that stuff, and then he basically comes in and is like a master level.
Right.
Day two. He's like, oh yeah, I'm a great wizard. This is what happens. And
that was very Harry Potter-ish when the warlock is walking around and he's like instructing them, and then it showed they were trying to make that silver spear or sphere, and it really had that vibe. I was thinking of the show The Magicians. I was thinking of Harry Potter. Just kind of all worked with that. But then as soon as the guy's head exploded, I was like, yeah, we're not in Harry Potter land.
No, this isn't. It can't be that simple, but it's pretty amazing. I loved the council guys. I love Cheyenne Jackson. I think he's really,
oh my gosh,
he's really, really good. And he plays
DB Wong is in there.
DB Wong is there. Well, the lead guy's name's Ariel.
Yeah. He's Ariel.
And then the black gentleman is named Mead. And then
no, he's not. Hold on.
That's his name. That's his
character's
name. Yeah, it is.
Because
but that's what they call him in the.
I don't know why they call him Mead, because his character name is phenomenal. I just got to find it here. His name is Behold Chablis.
Yes, it's fantastic. What they got. Yes,
Behold Chablis. I think that's the best name, and I loved how their interaction. I loved how Cheyenne was very skeptical of the whole thing. He was seeing it immediately, and the other guys were like, no, we want this to be
right,
because they wanted to take over the witches, and he's just like, something's not right here. We're not about being evil. We're warlocks and they're witches, and because that's what you got in Coven too. Is they weren't about being evil. Madame LeBeau was. They were witches. They were practicing witchcraft, and they were Wiccans,
Right.
That's very different than let's play around with pure evil.
Yes. No, there was, it's cool. Their dynamic is cool, and they just, very much like Coven, they complain about things with each other. They're not sure. Everybody has different motives, even though they're powerful wizards. But then when they do the test on Langdon, they're all like, we don't even come close to him. What are we going to do? Even though we're and they play off it. Some of the guys are jealous. Some of them are very optimistic that they're finally going to get a Supreme that's a male Supreme, and others are just kind of like, oh, what's going on? So I love that dynamic between them.
Yeah. Now we get into the reason we came to this episode.
Dun, dun, dun. Yes.
This was phenomenal. And in fact, it tied in. Now, we've heard from the beginning they were tying in Coven.
Yes.
And they were tying in Murder House.
Murder House, yes.
You and I called it like first episode. They're tying in Cortez.
Yep.
And Cortez is part of this world. And what's great about that is we saw part of the Cortez.
It has to be, though.
Why?
Because they're doing witches, and what we're going to talk about was part of Coven, the time between Coven and Hotel.
But we didn't know that. We didn't know for sure that they were going to tie in Cortez. And that also means vampires are here.
Yes. Is Lady Gaga going to show up? That would be awesome.
That'd be awesome.
Because we'll talk about that in a few minutes. There's some good stuff coming up.
So last episode, I was looking through IMDb as we were talking, and that's when I saw Queenie.
Yes.
And I went, oh, and I didn't talk about it.
Yes.
And then I saw Marsh was back.
Yes. This
was awesome. I could use more Marsh.
Well, so to set this up,
to
set up what you're talking about, part of Michael proving how powerful he is, and he wants to. Well, so the council, the male council says we got a guy who could be supreme. They call the witches over and say, Supreme, we've got somebody here that could be supreme. You need to check this out and take us seriously. And of course, Cordelia and Myrtle and
they're like, no.
They're like, no, whatever, you can't do that. Well, then Michael does something to prove to them that he's powerful enough. And so what does he do? You can tell the story.
He goes to the Cortez and he hears the story about how Cordelia could not get Queenie out of the Cortez.
Right.
And they showed how this is where we see her confront Marsh and tries to pull Queenie out of there. And every time she goes to the door, Queenie's stuck. And they even made a reference, like they've just been sitting here playing, what were they playing? War or 21 or something?
I think they were playing War, yeah.
They've been playing it forever. And it's like, this is what my life is. And that's just what they're going to do for eternity now. And every time she tried to walk her through the door, boom, Queenie's right back in with Marsh. And Marsh knew that was going to happen. It's like this, she's not leaving.
Mm-hmm.
And Queenie was definitely bummed by it. Cordelia, who's so powerful, could not figure out how to get her out of there. She said she was there for days, trying everything she could think of.
Mm-hmm.
So Langdon overhears this. He goes to the Cortez. He walks in on the same game. Marsh is like looking him down going, there's something different.
Right.
This is different. And Queenie's like, yeah, I'll go with you and watch. I'll be right back here. What do I care? Blah, blah, blah. And
she gets out.
He walks her right out that door.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. This guy's power is crazy.
Well, or is it? I mean, I had some speculation when I saw this that maybe he just had an in, but we'll
I don't think so. I think it's power.
No, I think it is too, but there's, it could be some other things. And then,
then the next one, I can't remember how they got to this. Did Cordelia reveal that she was not able to help Madison, or how did it come about that she went to get Madison?
I can't remember, but I think it's similar to that. So
yeah, some kind of story came up so that he heard that Madison was trapped. This was amazing. It shows Madison. She's working. It's supposed to be like a Walmart. It kind of reminded me of like a Kohl's or a Bed Bath & Beyond.
Right.
She's working customer service. All these awful people in line. This was
fantastic.
Hilarious.
Oh my
God. And the best line was when the woman is like, oh, she's nobody. They thought she was Lindsay Lohan.
Right.
Oh, she's nobody. And she goes, you're calling me a nobody? You're like a non-named day player in my eternal hell. You know what? She's like, what do you mean I'm a nobody? And then the manager comes and cattle prods her and sends her off to deal with the sheets, or towels, which was like,
right.
Oh my
you have
God.
to fold towels.
Oh my God. Which, if you've ever had to work a job like that, which I have, oh my God. Like, I'm watching it going, this really literally could be what eternal hell would be.
Oh, sure.
You're the low man on the totem pole working at one of those places, and you got to just keep working and dealing with customers.
You got to
they're
crow and yes.
nonstop.
Yes.
Nonstop. It was just great. And then he shows up, and Queenie shows up with Langdon, and she's like, I don't know how, but we're walking out of here. And they did. It was nuts.
Yeah, it is. It's amazing. So then the whole band's back together, which is good. Why, Madison is back alive and coming back into the scene.
This is, so we're still in the flashback stage. This is where I got confused. I said I got a little confused because when they came in, all of a sudden I was like, wait a minute, where are we now? Because it's so close in time frame to what ends up happening. But Langdon, Madison, and Queenie come walking in, and you've got Cordelia and Myrtle, and I forget who else standing there. And Cordelia passes out.
Right.
Because, I mean, oh my God.
Right.
This guy did it. He not only got Queenie out, which she could not do, but she also walked in with Madison. This is crazy. Crazy.
It is. It's there's a lot going on, and not to give away spoilers, there's a ton of foreshadowing in this episode for what's going to happen coming up. And I'm not going to say what it is, but there is a ton. Just like we talked the last 5 minutes, I can think of like 6 things that I know are going to happen in the next episode or two. It's just like, wow. So
this was really like, since the break, since the change, episode 3 through 6, we're talking 4 through 6 here, but after the break with the witches, this has been so plotted out. Everything we're seeing is tied back and plotting out in a way that, like, it's making it so you really got to pay attention, but it's really fun.
Right.
Like we went from me feeling a little iffy in the first couple episodes to me going,
oh yeah,
this might be the best season.
It's all right here. And there's a lot for the fan. There's a lot for, if you've been watching this series, you're
and
in.
It doesn't feel like fan service either.
No, it doesn't. It's a good tie-in. So, and we'll talk more about that in the next couple episodes that we're going to do. So,
yeah. And it's like I know that the Witches season was probably the most popular. Everyone always talks about it. I think they've captured lightning in a bottle again, if they can maintain this for the rest of the season, because my God, I'm so in. I watched those 3 episodes today and I was like, I've only got one more in my queue. Right. It's killing me. How am I going to go week to week?
Can I do it? Oh yeah, absolutely. It was like the first time I watched Walking Dead. I watched the entire season 1 in a day and a half, and I was just mesmerized. I'm like, oh, now I got to watch, excuse me, season 2 every week. It's like, what the bleep?
That's exactly how it worked for us. Tough. So there you go. I think that wraps up season 4. What do you think?
I think that
or episode 4.
Episode 4. I think that it's awesome, and it's. I'm glad. I'm excited about the direction that the show's going now. Not that I didn't like, as I told my wife Kathleen a few minutes ago, I really liked episodes 1, 2, and 3, and I'm loving 4, 5, and 6. So
yeah,
as a big fan, as a fan of the show, I think everyone else will appreciate it too. So keep watching.
I agree. All right. So follow us on Twitter at Disturbed Pod. Follow us on Facebook under Disturbed Podcast. What else? Follow me at R Southgate. Follow on Twitter. You can also find me under Rob Southgate on Instagram and SMG Pods on Instagram. And we have tons of events coming up at the Blue Box Cafe and at various other places that will be announced soon. If you go to our website, if you go to southgatemediagroup.com, on the homepage, we just announced our official fall lineup. So it tells you what shows are released on what days. And we actually, for 2 weeks, have been actually hitting those, even with me being sick. So we are on track for some really fun, cool things. And just so you know, keep your eye on that, because we have a couple new shows that are brewing. I'm hoping to get those on before the end of the year. They're going to be so fantastic. Oh my gosh. And they're so different. Just really cool stuff. And Chris, why don't you give your social media one more time?
Absolutely. Blue Box Cafe or Blue Box Cafe 176 on social media. Also check us out at GeeksCon. We got some news about Volume 2 coming up soon.
Yeah, you do. And I think that's it. Let's end this episode. Chris, Back into your rubber suit.
Thank you.
Okay, so anyone watching, I don't know if anyone's watching right now. We are going to go right into the next episode.
Are we going to do a new show or leave this one?
We'll just leave it. I'll just mush them all together. I think that'll be easier.
Okay.
Let's leave a nice long pause before we start. Save changes. Actually, let's give it 15 seconds.
Want me to do the intro?
Yeah. So we'll do 15 seconds and then you can start.
Welcome to Disturbed. Tonight we are talking about season 8, episode number 5, Boy Wonder. My name is Chris Mao, and with me tonight is
Rob Southgate.
All right, guys.
I should say the on the mend Rob Southgate.
On the mend, getting better every second. You look so much better than you did last episode, Rob. That's great. No, but we're talking about episode 5, which we're really getting into some juicy stuff. If you haven't seen it yet, be warned, this one is full of all sorts of great stuff to see and to look at. So we'll get into that as we go. So yeah. What do you think, man?
Now, you said the name of the episode is Boy Wonder?
Boy Wonder.
Where's Adam West? We know what that means. Yeah, yes. I was going to say, now we know what that means. Man, this episode, I was so blown away by this episode.
Yeah.
This was a high point out of 8 seasons. That's how much I enjoyed it. I don't know if it's the number 1 episode, but it is. But it's hard to pick a number 1. But when you talk about benchmarks, like when it's hitting its stride, this episode hit its stride.
Right. Yeah, I really liked it. I mean, there is a lot. There's a lot to it. There's a lot of interaction. There's a lot of seeing what's going on. They put Michael through the 7 Wonders test, which is absolutely amazing. I kind of love that whole part of it, and then the things that happen after it are good. So I just couldn't believe it how great it was. So.
Oh yeah. No, it was phenomenal. So it picks up exactly where the last one left off.
Yes,
which is Cordelia's passed out, and we see her waking up outside. Now this is crazy. She wakes up outside of Miss Rebishow's, but it's after the apocalypse.
Right.
So you can see everything's destroyed, and she sees this white demon standing there, and his minions, all these like zombies, come up and start ripping her flesh.
Right. It was very Walking Dead. It was like right out of Walking Dead.
It really was. And I knew that had to be like a dream or a flashback or whatever, because it didn't make sense.
Right.
But at the same time, it was done so well. It was fun to watch. Well, and you're going,
I mean, it was great to watch, but they kind of, I think they did that because of the trailer that they showed where Cordelia says something like, I've had this vision and it's horrible. And what I do now will decide the fate of the world. So then they kind of show this, and you're like, oh my God, she did something horrible. And
see,
the world is ending, which isn't. This is just a dream she's having, or a vision. So
yeah, see, I figured that it was a vision. I figured that when she passed out, she was having a vision of the future, of where this could all be leading, because she very well could lead right to that point.
Right. Paul Bettany was in this episode. I didn't know that.
Was he?
A vision?
Oh, the vision. Oh, you're the worst. You're the worst.
That was good. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So we've seen what her vision of the future is. It's pretty bleak. That also reminded us that we are not at the apocalypse yet. Okay.
Right. Well, she snaps right back into, Hawthorne's school for the exceptional young men. And
right. Well, but then we get our flashback to Miss Robichaux's, and we get to see some of the witches that are in training. So we got to see Mallory has big power.
Right.
And I think that was setting us up.
Yes, I do too.
Mallory is going to be the one that's going to go toe to toe with Langdon.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we knew that from that scene earlier, but I think now we've seen she is the opposite. He is this dark, evil character.
Right.
She's like, Mother Nature, but she's got huge power.
So I don't know if she's opposite, but she's an equal force to him.
Well, I don't think it's going to be polar like black and white opposite.
Right. But she's good and he's not. And I think that's
right.
I mean, I think that opposite, they're obviously on opposite sides of the.
If there was a Venn diagram of the two of them, her bubble would be way more to the right and his would be way more to the left. And that gray area, I think, of evil would be actually larger for him. Like she'd have less dipped into that.
Yeah, absolutely.
The other thing that I loved was Coco, who is freaking terrible.
She's awful still. Awful.
Oh my gosh. And she's like, this place sucks ass. And oh my gosh. And the best part is when it revealed her powers.
Yes.
And she's like, I'm a gluten detector.
Right.
Oh my God.
Well, the explanation's great.
Had gluten in it.
I had this tingly feeling, and my brother was eating a scone or biscotti, and I knocked it out of his hands. Like it was like this great, huge ordeal that she did this, and it's probably her just saying, "Don't eat that," and that was it. But of course, being so self-important and narcissistic, that
it's got to play in though. There's got to be a point when her power, just like the X-Men, each of them, their power shines through at some magic point. There's got to be something where she's like, "No, don't eat it."
Maybe he has celiac disease, and that's how they get him down. That would be great, wouldn't it? She's like giving him but then Cordelia explains it as you sense danger, and that's a very powerful.
Well, she's also trying to get the father's money in there.
Oh, sure.
So
they're only letting me in here because he donated $1 gazillion to him.
Yeah, and I kind of think that was true.
Right. Well, but did he also give money to? Did he give money to Hawthorne, or did he give money to? I can't even think of what the name of the.
Well, he gave money that got her in there,
right?
In the facility.
Yeah,
yeah,
and it's controlled by who? I can't think of it. It's been 2 episodes, so I can't. But you know what I mean? Did he give that money to them too? I'm sure he did, but you know what I mean. There's What is that whole thing? Or did they give money to them? Did the witches give the money that the dad gave them to the other people? Because we're going to talk about that as our theories after this one. So
yes,
yeah.
That was an amazing scene though. That was killing me, and I did love seeing the witches in their environment there. I loved seeing that interplay with Cordelia and the various witches.
Right.
The whole thing was great. So is this where they made Marsden take the trial?
Well, so here's what goes on. Cordelia, after she wakes up, makes the statement that she is going to, in 2 weeks, we're going to give him the 7 Wonders test.
Okay.
And so then she and Myrtle, the witches, go back to the coven. Myrtle and Cordelia kind of have it out. Myrtle's giving I can't believe you're doing this, blah, blah, blah. And Cordelia kind of says, listen, I need to find out who our next successor is because I'm weakening. And
and it showed she had that like scar thing.
Had that scar thing or whatever it was on her body. And so then, Myrtle's like, okay, I guess I kind of understand what you're talking about. But then Myrtle also cautions her and says, there's great power here in the building. And, Mallory is strong. And I believe Madison is really strong as well. So, I mean, she goes, cast your net wide for a successor. Don't just focus on Michael because could be powerful. And she even made the statement, just because your mother passed the test doesn't mean she would be a good Supreme. So maybe maybe she set it up where there's multiple people that could have passed the test. That 7
Which is similar to what happened in Coven, where for a while there, you were wondering who's going to be the Supreme.
Right.
I don't think it's cut and dried, although the Warlocks are pushing for Michael to be the Supreme.
Sure. Well,
they think they've got the solution.
Well, and their legend is if a male ever passes a test, that he will be the Supreme. So
right.
That's kind of what they do. So that kind of did that. Then Coco came in, and then they go to the test. I think is after that.
Well,
there's something before that.
Right. John Henry Moore, which is Cheyenne,
Yes.
he's not buying this. So he goes off to get proof.
Well, do you know why he doesn't buy it?
Well,
so when they're doing
at one point he saw the demon face.
Right, when they're doing the blessing on him and they're doing blood from the body, salt from the ocean, or water from the sea, blah blah blah, whatever it was, he had that vision and saw the devil's face. And even Langdon kind of looked at him, and it's like one of those blink kind of things where you see the face and then it goes back and you're not sure if you see it.
Right.
He has that doubt. He's like, I saw the demon face. Let's go.
Yeah. Right. So Cheyenne leaves. He goes to the gas station. Meade pulls up next to him.
Right.
And plays feeble. Like, oh, I can't work this. And the whole time you're like, oh, what's going to happen?
Hold on a second. So I'm going to ask this question. As we are going to see, is that Meade the robot or Meade?
I don't think we know yet.
Right.
I don't think we know yet. I think it's Meade the real person.
Right.
I think everything in the last couple episodes that we've seen of Meade is Meade the real person. I don't think Meade the robot shows up until after the apocalypse.
So the apocalypse? Okay. Just saying, I don't know when that comes in, but yeah, Langdon has Meade. It was poorly set up. It was kind of a convenient way, but it was great.
It was great that when she cut the tendons and he fell right back and then she slit his throat,
right?
Pours gasoline on him, lights a match, and she's out of there.
See Boom. Later.
And that was crazy. I mean, it was awfully convenient.
Yeah.
But
it was. I mean, I saw him sitting there and number one, it's kind of funny how, they make the comment about witches earlier about who gets the aisle seat or flying over in a plane.
Right.
When you think that they might be able to travel some different way. And then there's Cheyenne as John Henry Moore driving a really nice, a Jaguar? I think it was a Jaguar because it was really nice car filling up gas at some podunk gas station in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
And then getting torched. So,
oh my gosh. Then we find out that Ariel is working with them.
Yes.
Because he's so dead set that Marsden is going to be the Supreme.
Right.
Langdon. This is our Langdon. This is our time.
Right.
This is what's going to happen. And I thought that was a pretty good reveal. I had no idea that was going on.
Mm-hmm. And he said he's the one who told me when he left. And
and she also said when he's going in for his 7 Wonders test, Meade says to him, you're going to do great. She's all encouraging, and she's like, don't mention your father.
Yes.
Oh my God.
By the way, don't mention your father. So
I totally loved the old timey newsreel 7 Wonders test.
Yes, it was pretty. It was cute.
Well, it was, and the thing is, I think that the things that we saw were not what his real tests were. I think that any test they would have done would not have been as cool looking as what you wanted. So instead, they did this hokey thing. It's like, whoa, it's a flash of light. Oh, they all went, oh, yay.
Yeah.
I think that was on purpose because otherwise the whole time you'd be like, yeah, that looks fake, or they just made it all fake. They made it kind of fun. And you saw the aftermath that they all bought into it.
Sure.
And then Cordelia has one more test. Number 7.
Yes.
And she throws a curveball into the whole thing. That he has to raise Misty Day.
Yes.
They've already established you can't do this.
Well, so these are the 7 tests that he has to go through. And I don't know what order, what he has to do, but I think it's important. They talk about telekinesis, which is being able to summon something through the air.
Right.
Hey, I want that glass of wine, whatever.
Each of them were tricks.
Right. Well, there was one that, was it Council Minio, where you basically control people. There was transmutation, which I thought was more like teleportation. Where he disappeared and reappeared someplace else.
Reappears behind him. Yeah.
Divination, which is trying to, figure out knowledge. Then there was pyrokinesis, which obviously create fire. Then there was vitalis, which is healing, which I believe is something to do with the help. And then they get to the last one, which is dissension, which is fighting demons, basically. And can you do it now? The original or the way the test is supposed to go is if you can hold the demons off.
Right.
If you can hold them off, then you're strong enough to be the supreme. If you can't hold them off, you get sucked into hell. Now that happened to Misty. She got sucked into hell.
Right.
From Coven.
But Cordelia adds to it. You have to get her out.
Right. Well, but then Cordelia did that to Langdon, saying, you need to go get her. And Cordelia was like, you haven't, when the council confronted her about it, she goes, you haven't seen what I've seen. He needs to be able to go into hell and be able to come back out without getting hurt.
Right.
So that's why he makes her do it. So then he sends her to get Misty, which was a great scene. Fabulous scene.
I also wonder if that was a higher level test. If he goes in there and he can come out unscathed and he gets out with one of her girls,
right?
Is that strengthening her side and telling her, yeah, he went into hell?
Right.
Like there's something going on here.
Well, I think there's some of that. I think, as you notice, she got 2 pretty powerful witches back from Michael. So is there a longer game in her getting Misty back, who is a very powerful witch?
Right.
Healing abilities are pretty amazing. And it was evident in Coven that she was almost Cordelia's equal in power.
I loved this. Her hell was having to be in biology class, and she had to keep dissecting this frog.
Yes.
And then when the guy got disemboweled, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, that was pretty gruesome. So yeah, she's in biology class and she heals the dead frog that they're supposed to dissect.
Right.
And the kid goes, Mr. Roberts, whatever his name is, she healed the frog again. And then he comes over, he goes, now you have to dissect it. She has to dissect it. She screams.
Now you got to deal with a live one.
He heals it, repeat. It's, Sisyphus going back and forth. And then, Michael comes down and
guts the
teacher, and then breaks the spell and brings Misty back.
And this was interesting. When Misty was around him, she could sense that there was evil in Langdon. This is where I started really questioning that. Like when he had to go to hell to get her, I started thinking, why is she gathering her troops? Or how is she getting him to gather her troops? Because that's what was going on. And why is nobody calling out the evil part of it? When Misty was, I'm like, I really think that's what's going on here. I think Cordelia is trying to play him.
Right.
The warlocks are inconsequential to her. It's him.
Yes, absolutely.
She knows something's wrong here.
Well, as she states, because pretty much a couple scenes later, Misty and Cordelia are talking after she gets, obviously gets back, and they're talking and stuff. Cordelia basically says, I let him do this so I could see how strong he was. Yeah. Because I knew he was strong. So there's obviously long term game for her, that she's getting her strength and getting all of her powerful witches back by her to help her in the long run. So
right.
And then they do the obligatory, we're going to bring the White Witch Stevie Nicks in.
And she'll do a song, and now we have something for our Spotify playlist.
Yes.
And but you know what? I actually kind of liked the scene.
Yeah, it was good because it was very evident, what was going on with that. So
yeah. And then that brings us to our end, which is Madison. Oh, there's something else?
No, that you're right. So Cordelia,
Madison and behold, Chablis.
Yes.
They go off to hunt down the answers.
Yeah. But so here's the thing. Cordelia kind of gives a little flick to Madison. Hey, come talk to me. So Madison and Cordelia go off and talk while Stevie Nicks is having her song. And then we find out that Cordelia is sending Madison and Behold to
back to Murder House. Marty, we got to go back to Murder House. I loved it.
Yes.
As soon as they showed Murder House, I'm like, oh yeah.
Well, and then looking at the title of the next episode kind of ruined it for it's like, Death of Qui-Gon Jinn,
Yeah, right.
Oh, what? Oh, that's what happens? No, but so, they do get into that they're going back. But you also notice that when Cordelia and Madison kind of look at each other and leave, Langdon looks at him, and I think he has some idea what's happening. Whether it's everything or he knows that something's up, I think he's aware of that. So
yeah, I agree. Yeah, this was a great episode. This was one of those pitch perfect episodes. Although, spoiler, I might be saying something better about the next episode. So
for the first 5, this is the best one.
Oh my God. So that's it. Follow us on Twitter at Disturbed Pod. Follow us on Facebook. Look up Disturbed Podcast. You can follow me at R Southgate. You can follow the company at SMG Pods, or look up Southgate Media Group. Send us an email. Get in conversation with us. It's southgatemediagroup@gmail.com. And also, when we do these live, Chris and I are on Google Hangout here. It shows on YouTube. You can jump in the chat room with us. So tonight has been pretty quiet as far as the chat room. Our friend Chris here, who jumps on, his phone died, so he couldn't join us tonight. But if you're out there and you want to chat with us, we answer live as you're doing stuff. Chris, you want to give some social media, and then
Absolutely.
we're out.
That can be found at Blue Box Cafe or Blue Box Cafe 176 on social media. Also at Geeks Con. That's Geeks with a Z.
There you go. That's it. Until next time, Chris, squeeze yourself back into that rubber suit.
Ew.
Okay. Now, rather than say a 15-second break, I'm going to run up and get some water because I'm starting to lose my voice.
Yes.
I'll be right back. Once I come back, we can start up episode 6.
You want to do it or you want me to do it?
All right, I'm back. I would kill for a cough drop. Let's see if I have one. Yeah, I'm surprised we're getting through 3 here. My voice is starting to go.
Yeah.
This is the most I've done. I'm telling you, I've been so sick. Oh, crazy. Six stops away, Marth. All right. I'm chewing on a... Can you hear that?
I can see it.
I don't care if you can see it. I'll try to make it inconspicuous. You want to do the intro on this one?
Yeah, give me a sec. All right. Whenever.
Yeah.
Welcome to Disturbed. Tonight, Rob and I are talking season 8, episode 6. Dun, 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 dun. Return
to Murder House.
Which is,
I was doing it with you.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Our
timing should be much better than that, but I apologize. So we've been talking a lot about what is going to happen and where crossovers are going to be at. Obviously, this is a little bit of a spoiler because they talked to Return to Murder House. they got at the end of season 5 or episode 5. But this is the mother payoff of mother payoffs of American Horror Story.
It really is. And
it's absolutely
as much
fantastic.
as I loved episode 5, and I said this was a high watermark, this is the high watermark. Well, I don't want this to happen all the time. I don't want to have a bunch of like, let's go recap it. It wrapped up storylines from the first season in a really great way. It gave us new information. It was bizarre. The two twins that looked like they were dressed like clowns with their heads on fire. Yes. What the hell was that?
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
Oh, that's their
fabulous.
That's their Easter egg because it's nuts. But no, it was great. We revisit a ton of old characters.
Yeah.
We revisit. We get to see Jessica Lange. We get to see.
I didn't know she was in it.
Neither did I.
So excited.
I mean, we get to see all this stuff. Connie Britton comes back. It's absolutely fantastic.
Well, the scene when it showed Ben and Tate early on, and they're sitting there having their counseling.
Yeah,
it was so out of that first season that I thought it was just footage from the first season.
Yes,
and then when the two of them walked in, Ben and Tate turned to him and they're like, "What are you doing here?" I was like, "Whoa!"
Right. Well, Evan Peters looked pretty good. Dylan McDermott looked old. I mean, it's been a few years. I mean, but he still looked good. It was great.
Not so old that I wasn't fooled.
No, I was too. I was like,
or at least I was allowing myself to be fooled. I really, really enjoyed that.
Well, and not being able to compare it to what it was, but it was great. But I got to go. Okay, so before they even get into the house, basically what it is Behold and Madison they're going to buy the murder house so they can go in there, be undisturbed. They play a couple who is married trying to buy the house. The real estate agent looks at them like they're nuts, not because it's a mixed breed company or couple, and Behold is very obviously gay. But
you think?
But that they want to live there because of all the murders. And Madison's like, I can't believe we're doing this. They're never going to buy this. Behold's comment, I had to put on khakis today. Who's having to rough it or something like that? Who's having a horrible day?
No, he goes, and I had to put on khakis. It's been a bad day for all of us.
Right.
The other thing he said was, I kept writing quotes down from him. We're the worst version of Heidi Klum and Seal.
Yes.
Oh my God.
That was fan. I mean, they started out firing in old school American Horror Story way and kept it going for an hour and 15 minutes because this was overtime. It was great.
Yeah. It was a long one, and it was great. And then you have these two characters that are killing me walking around in the middle of all of it.
Right.
36 people have died there, they said.
Yes.
This was another funny line when they were talking about buying the place, and the guy's like, 36 people died there. I'm kind of surprised. And he goes, the wife's looking for a farmhouse kitchen.
Yes.
And then he looks over at her and he goes, don't worry, we'll burn some sage.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Well, what did she say? Oh, she goes, I can't wait to have lots of kids here. And the look on his face was priceless. He's like, what the blank? It's like, he's like, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. And then when he was trying to work his magic to get in the door, and he's like, oh, so you're an obstinate house.
Yes.
Like, yeah, just use the key. It was, I mean, everything happening in there was just great. I want to say again, though, this is where I got confused. And it was, it's fully on me. All of a sudden, I'm like, wait, did they leave the scenes? Why isn't everything destroyed? And then I realized, no, this is like 3 episodes in a row that we've been in the flashback. We're not seeing anything that's happening current time.
No, which we will soon, I think.
Yeah, well, it's on the cusp of it. That's why I got confused.
Well, I think there needs to be one more episode where they kind of figure out how they're going to defeat Langdon or how they're going to approach it, and then they'll just skip to the end where they're going to do whatever they have to do.
Yeah. They immediately sense that the house is evil. They're both walking around like, oh boy, there's something really, really wrong here.
Well, doesn't he say something like bad juju or bad
karma?
I mean, Behold is all nutty. he even said like his magic has been off since I walked in here and all sorts of things. And he's like, there's some messed up people here.
Well, they do the magic to try to see the ghosts and everything. They're like, we're gonna push this thing along. And right away, the way they know that it worked, we see that nurse ghost walk by,
right?
Which reminded me. Remember the two nurses in was it Roanoke?
Roanoke, yes.
And I was like, they're not doing a throwback to that, but it was only one nurse, and they didn't play with that. That would have been a great throwback.
If Dennis O'Hare showed up, then yes, it would have been a throwback to Roanoke.
No, Dennis O'Hare. That is the big disappointment here. The twin clown kids on fire. What the serious hell?
Sure. Well, we're going to go to a spoiler that I don't know if you caught later. We'll talk about it at the end because it's near the end that it comes in, but we'll talk about that.
I look forward to it.
Yes.
It was after this that we saw Ben and Tate having their conversation.
Yes.
And Ben says that, like, they reveal, they're like, basically, this is our hell. And we have to stay. We can't leave here. And he goes, yeah, I have to go stare out of the window and masturbate and cry. And then she's like, oh, the tearjerker. Oh, my God. That was the most hilarious thing.
Well, and then, they're supposed to be having this session, and Tate's like, you need to help me with your daughter, man. I love her. And it's like, what are you talking about?
Right.
And then they show the scene where Violet's kind of like walking around, staring off and misty-eyed, and it's very weird, and we'll talk about that later because they wrapped that up pretty nicely, I thought.
And she looks exactly like she did then.
Yep.
Like the other ones, yeah, you can see they've aged some. Even Tate, she looks like she's 15. It's the weirdest thing. The ball.
Oh yeah,
the ball came bouncing down. That was really cool.
I was waiting for more to happen, but that was cool. So yeah, so they're walking around the house. This red ball bounces down the steps in between them, goes in the middle of the floor. Of course, Madison goes to pick it up and gets attacked by Rocky. So
yeah. And then they get stopped by Billie Dean Howard, and she's like, yes. I'm like the only thing that's alive here.
Yes.
That was great. I loved her showing up. I loved that. I love that they're taking all the characters that these people have been playing, and you're watching when you're buying it.
Oh yeah.
She's Billie Dean right here. She could be standing right next to one of her other characters, and you go, yeah, of course. Yeah. It shows how good the acting has been with each of these characters, how fleshed out these characters are. As soon as I saw her, I knew who it was.
Right. Oh yeah. Well, she had the sweater, and
I'm like, it's not Constance, or it's not Constance.
Not Cordelia.
Cordelia.
Right.
It was just great.
And then payoff time.
Constance. I didn't know.
Right. Neither did I.
I know there were rumors that she was going to be back this season. We talked about it in one of our earlier episodes. I kind of forgot. So even in Murder House, I wasn't thinking Constance is going to show up, but holy crap. And boy, did she have a great episode.
Right. Well, so Billie Dean
and Moira returned.
Billie Dean Howard comes in and is talking to them. She's like, what are you doing here? And they go, we bought this house. It's our house. And it cuts to the stairs. You see her shadow. You see her walk down, and she goes, no, darling, this is my house. And it's Constance, and it was great. And then Moira's in, and their interaction is fantastic.
Oh my gosh.
The repartee between them is unbelievable.
Well, and there's still that, all that anger is still sitting there right on the surface. And it just made everything make sense in this episode,
Well, they played off of it. I love it how during the episode they talk about having to be stuck there and the reasons that they're stuck there. And I don't know if it's necessarily hell for them because they're dead, because I don't think their life at the end was very good. And even some of them are actually pretty enjoying doing what they're doing. I think.
Yeah, I don't think it is eternal hell.
They're stuck there. Yeah, they're stuck there and they're haunting the house, obviously. But like Constance doesn't seem to really mind being there.
No, I mean, she just doesn't want Moira there.
Right, and it didn't seem that Tate really minded it at the end either.
Right.
But yeah,
I don't know if any of them really minded it necessarily. Yeah. Other than I do think Moira was very pleased to get out.
Oh yeah.
They found Moira's bones, which was crazy. They're digging up all these bones and then They're like, nope, that's not her. Nope, that's not her. Finally, they come up with her.
Well, wasn't it great that she's just sitting there smoking a cigarette and Behold is doing all the work? He's just like, bitch, whatever, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, right, right.
Like, is this it? No, I get a different vibe from this one.
Yeah,
this
yeah.
Her. But at the end, when did you notice at the end when they bury Moira in the grave that they didn't shovel the dirt back in? She just kind of magicked it back. So why didn't they magic it out?
maybe Behold didn't have the ability to do that.
Right.
And when it was her turn to do the shoveling, she just went like,
you
know?
She did, yeah. She bewitched it. So
she bewitched it.
Yeah, but it was great how they were going back and forth about, that Moira didn't dust very well. And she's just all over. She goes, what is this? It's my disgust. It was great.
Yeah.
It was like right out of Mommy Dearest. I was like, oh my God.
And that was Constance's one thing. She would talk about Langdon if they got Moira out of there. So that's why they did that. And it gave closure. It made sense. And I love that when her bones were buried, all of a sudden her mom shows up and she has closure with her mom because she's like, I killed you. And the mom's like, I'm so thankful you did. It was a horrible existence. I thought that was really great.
It was very touching and very, it was nice. It was a nice ending to that. There were a lot of nice endings in this show.
Yeah.
And this because, and then later on, Connie Britton shows up and you're like, oh my God, because I didn't know.
I couldn't believe she was in it.
She was going to be there either. And she did the cameo. And then her and Dylan McDermott kind of get back together. Constance kind of comes to peace with everything that she's done. Although she's crazy and evil too, she's kind of in a good place. Tate and April getting into a good place. It's April, right? Violet.
No, sorry. Violet.
April, Tate and Violet kind of get into a good place. And then they kind of explain the whole deal about Langdon, which is really kind of cool. So
yeah. One interesting thing is when Constance was talking about Langdon, she called him the angel of light. She said, as a baby, he was the angel of light. In the Bible, that's how they refer to Satan.
Mm-hmm.
So when she said that, I was like, you're telling us he's the devil.
Right. Well, it's pretty evident 2 minutes later after she tells the story. I mean, she's like,
and he is.
Yeah, he starts like pulling, like in the crib, pulling wings off of flies, and then goes to killing rodents, then goes to killing dogs and cats, and then goes on to killing people. And she clearly states, she goes, I thought he was just, I could tell what side of the tree he was going up. He's going to be a serial killer. Well, then, and then she's like, whoa. And then it got worse. And I think she visibly kind of got scared at that point in time. Like you could
when she walked in, he was giant.
Right.
He went from being a little kid to being that big-footed guy that he is now.
Right. Well, and her line about it was great. She goes, he aged 10 years overnight. It was almost like he was in a hurry.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. So I don't know the time period between this and the end of the world. I don't know what the time frame is because
it's not that far.
Right. Maybe it's a little bit, but maybe not that far.
This might only be a couple of years max.
Right.
I'm telling you, it is not too far away from where we are right now in this. Because I don't think the witches would have sat on all this stuff with him during all this time if it wasn't that close.
Right. Well,
so Constance,
they were sent back to find what happened. So I don't know what the time frame of it is, but it appears like it's really close.
We also got the backstory on Constance. We now know how she died.
Yes.
So she killed herself to get away from this monster.
Mm-hmm.
And I think she is happy. She said she has her kids other than Abby there. Because Abby died outside of the house.
Right.
But
she
the eyeless,
car accident? Is that how Abby
died? Remember she got hit by the car?
Yeah.
And she wouldn't let her into the house to die because she knew she'd be trapped there.
Right.
So she dragged her back out.
Mm-hmm.
The eyeless kid was there, which was bizarre. And then Rocky and Tate.
Yeah.
So
it was a very interesting thing because she goes, I was trying to help him, but then I knew I couldn't help him anymore. And she was like, if I corrected him one more time, he would have slit my throat. And that's why she knew she had to die.
Right.
So she ODs on Crown Royal and what is it?
I don't know,
What did
pills.
she said something. Was it Len? I can't remember what it was, but like
Yeah, I don't know.
like it was fentanyl because she said a couple of Fens and a bottle of whiskey.
Yeah.
And I was done. Then they just kind of showed her fading off and killing herself.
Yep.
And
Which made sense. Once again, closure for the character. We know what's going on now.
Right.
And
she seemed perfectly happy. And then the little girl with the eyes came and they were talking at the table. She's like, I have to go have a tea party with my daughter. That's it. Thank you. And she was just happy as a clam. And although she's evil and BS crazy, she's there, and that was okay.
Yeah. Another highlight of the episode was when they walked in on Tearjerker.
Yes.
And he goes, doesn't anybody knock anymore? I'm like, oh my God. In the middle of all this, they do a Fast Times reference.
Exactly. It was exactly what I thought. I'm like, Fast Times.
Yeah.
It was great.
That was really funny. And then they're like, we can help with this. We can help solve this. And he was like, I really only need to solve the crying part.
Spoken like a true guy. So
yeah. So Ben did start helping Michael.
Yes.
Now Michael he says, the ghosts that want to be seen are the ones that can be seen. And I think I can help you. So he starts working with him. And it gets pretty crazy pretty quickly. Yeah. We see that he was doing like a Dahlia murder where he slit the woman's mouth, the actress, and she's like, "It's the price of fame." That was nuts.
Was that Mina Servino? Is that who it was?
Yes.
It was a great cameo by her. So,
and that was going back to now. Is he supposed to be the doctor that did that in the murder house originally?
I don't know. Maybe
it can't be because that would be out of time. Maybe he's just reliving it.
Right.
New owners take over the place, and boom, he's Rubber Man.
Yeah.
And boom, he kills him. And then when
so that foreshadows to bum bum bum.
Yeah, right. But when Ben is like, "What are you doing?" He just burns him up.
Yeah.
I mean, holy cow. That was really like.
Well, in Ben's description afterwards, he goes, not only did he utterly destroy them, he devoured their souls. So then all of a sudden I'm like, oh,
where are those clown kids at? Yeah. So Vivian shows up.
Yes.
And finds the cold spot. What was that? Why did I write that?
No, the cold spot is from is between Tate and Violet. That's later. That's at the very, very end.
No. I said Vivian shows up and finds a cold spot. Do you remember what that was?
So no, Vivian said nothing is natural about this. Connie Britton shows up. She's talking about.
She did. She made a reference to it being the cold spot between them.
Yes, the cold spot between. Right. So the relationship with Harmon, right?
Right.
And then she goes, Michael isn't just a bad witch; he's something more than that.
Yes. And then, I mean, if you cut to the end, that's when we get the resolution where we see Violet and Tate, and they have the cold, and Mallory, I'm getting names wrong now. I'm getting tired. Madison fixes their relationship. Like, it's like, look, he's not what you think. Here's what's going on, and brings these two ghosts together. So you get kind of a instead of a Romeo and Juliet ending, you get a better ending for the two.
Right. They come to terms about what's going on between them. And then he's like, I never stopped loving you. And she's like, I know your son needs you now. Go be a father to him. And that was what happened.
Yeah.
And then she goes into the next story, which is fantastic. I thought, because of Satanist. So
the Satanist, the Black Pope of the Church of Satan shows up, Anton LaVey.
Yeah.
They're there to see Michael. And did you notice who the one woman you had, Mead, was there?
Yes.
Which was great. They played Don't Fear the Reaper when she was there.
Oh, yeah.
But did you see who the other one was?
Who was that?
Now this was a throwback, but it's not she wasn't a character that's been on before, but it's an actress you're super familiar with on here. It was Naomi Grossman. She played Pepper.
Yes. Okay.
So Pepper showed up, but it wasn't Pepper.
Right. It wasn't Pepper.
So she hasn't been this character on here, but as soon as I saw her, I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
I know who that is. I looked her up. I'm like, oh yeah, that's who it is. So it was cool to have her back on.
Well, it was great because, it was great to have them come in and do the whole thing they did. But before they showed up, Connie Britton and Vivian was like, things were getting really, really weird. She's like, crows started circling the house.
Yeah, the murder of crows is there every day.
The house was very, very warm inside, like it was close to hell. And then she goes, and then they came. And they all came in the black robes, and they were Satanists.
Yep.
So,
yep. And I love that. He's like in his underwear. He's like, what are you guys doing here?
Yeah. But see, Connie Britton makes a great line in that. She goes, well, I thought it was just some con man from a pathetic circus. And I went, oh my God, they're talking about Freak Show.
Yep.
Because, could have been, I was like, this is great that there was that reference.
Yep.
And
Here comes the con man. Yep. Yeah, that would have ended badly for the con man meeting up with Michael, I have a feeling.
Right.
So they find a virgin.
Yes.
They strap her down. They kill her.
While they're playing Don't Fear the Reaper.
Yes. And the craziest thing was he takes her heart.
Yes.
And starts eating it. And as soon as he eats it, a shadow behind him of a demon appears.
Well, there were all sorts of things wrong with this. Number one, you're not going to just reach up into somebody's heart and chest and rip out their heart.
No, of course.
It was kind of cool what they did. They slit her open. He reached in, but that you're not just going to pull that out.
You got a lot to clip.
Yeah, you have a lot to clip. But he does that and eats it. And they even said, we're gonna unleash your power and show you who you really are. And then they did. That was a very supernatural from the show Supernatural, where they show the angels' wings behind the angels and all that stuff. So they kind of did that, and all of a sudden you see, oh my God, this kid is Satan's son. He's Well, he's not Lucifer. Although maybe Lucifer is. I can't remember how they do it, but he is Satan's son. He's
That was nuts. That was nuts, and that's where it left us.
Yes.
So I don't know. I haven't watched the next episode. I don't know what we're getting into. But all I can say is I didn't want this episode to end. I had a blast beginning to end with it.
Sure. Well, then they end it with great music when they're like, we need to get the hell out of here and go back and talk to Cordelia. And they play Spirits in the Material World by the Police, which was fantastic music to end this episode.
Yeah. Now,
the music was great. That's when they played Dante's Inferno when they were doing the heart scene. That's what the name of that song is, right? Yeah.
Well, and when you had something else I was thinking about, you think about them going back, they're going to talk to Cordelia. We know who's in this time frame now that we're back to this time frame.
Right.
What happens to our warlocks? Are they all wiped out? Or are they going to be with Michael? Like, are they going to show up and they're the others that he was going to bring in?
Maybe that's what it is, but it seems like Behold doesn't want to be on Michael's side. So maybe
now, what if Behold comes in with him and is the one that betrays him?
Could be. I think there's something going on. Well, obviously Cordelia has a plan because she hides Coco. She hides Coco's powers from her. They hide Mallory's powers from them. They hide Dinah's. It's Dinah, right? Or Dinah. They hide Dinah's powers so that Michael can't see them and kill them. And then obviously Cordelia makes it, and Myrtle makes it, and who else makes it? Madison makes it, right? That's the three who show up.
Yes.
And then so there's obviously witches out there that survive, and Cordelia, I think, has to do something to them for the long term. Because I don't think Michael knows about Coco. Michael doesn't know about Dinah, obviously doesn't know about Mallory. So I wonder at what next point episode's going to talk about that.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it has to. I think we've reached a point where it either has to catch up to now, and we have to miss a thing here, and then we'll go back, or they got to have one more episode filling in these blanks, And then we start getting into the showdown, which, do you know how many episodes this is?
I don't know. It's at least 10, so there's at least 4 more. Well, they have to go into what caused the end of the world, I think. I think that the next episode is what that is, and I don't know anything about it. I haven't even read the title of the episode. But
no,
I think
somehow it's going to be Michael.
Right. Well, it's obviously Michael, but I think they're going to go into what transpires and why he does what he does, where he's probably going to betray the Warlocks because because it's obvious that he and Mead, why did I say Mead? Behold, it's Mead. Why he and Miss Mead are plotting against the Warlocks, because she even says, well, they took you right in. They're so gullible, blah, blah, blah. So I think he's obviously working against them or not with them. So I think he's going to wipe them out too.
There are only 10 episodes in this season.
Right. So we have 4 more.
So yeah, on I'm hoping Tuesday we can record. We'll do episode 7, and then we'll be on track for 8, and then 9, and then wrap it up with 10.
And then back to season 7.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And I don't want to say anything. I know a little bit about next episode, but very little. What I want to know is, this is what I'm looking up. Has she played Dinah in other seasons?
No, because she was just in the last 2. She was just in Roanoke and just in...
What was her name?
In Roanoke, she was whatchamajigger's sister, and it wasn't Dinah. She was Cuba Gooding Jr.'s sister, right? And then in well, she made the reference to being a big TV star, which she was in one of the seasons. Maybe, I don't know.
Wasn't she?
In Roanoke, what did she play?
Here, it lists her as Dinah Stephens, Beverly Hope, Lee Harris, and Sally Freeman. She's been on 31 episodes. Let's see if it shows that character. It might not break it down. It doesn't.
What other episode was she in? Or series? Or was she 2 people in Roanoke?
She might have been 2 people in Roanoke. It doesn't say.
Because she was Beverly Hope in Cult, right? Where she was a reporter.
She was a reporter. I'm going to type in Dinah Stephens. Let's see if we get something for that. Dinah Stephens is a former actress and talk show host designated as Purple at Outpost 3. She's a character in Apocalypse portrayed by Adina Porter. Let's see if it has anything more. Oh, wait a minute. No, it's a new character. I was thinking because she was in Cult, but that character had a different name. She was Beverly Hope.
Right. She was Cuba Gooding Jr.'s sister.
Right. But once again, she's supposed to be, she was a TV star or something. I don't know. I think we're going to get a lot more out of her character in the next coming weeks.
Well, sure.
So, all right.
Well, because there's a reason why she kept she brought back the witches that she brought back. There's a specific reason for each of them.
Well, and she's the one that he recognized. What are you doing here?
Right.
So we'll find out. We'll find out.
We'll find out.
Social media, Chris, why don't you give it?
Absolutely. I can be found at Blue Box Cafe or Blue Box Cafe 176 on social media. Also at GeeksCon. That's Geeks with a Z.
And you can follow the show at Disturbed Pod. Find us on Facebook under Disturbed Podcast. Find our website, which is southgatemediagroup.com. There is a page for Disturbed there. Let's see. You can follow me at R Southgate, or on Instagram, you can follow me at Rob Southgate, or you can also follow at SMG Pods. We post all the different events we have. We post special things we're doing. There's just a lot to follow, a lot of different ways to follow us. Following me, following Chris, following the main company feed will tell you all the different events that are going on around the country at different things. We just had some of our guys in Ohio do a library Comic-Con, and they said they had A bunch of people show up. They said it was a blast. How do you find out that we're doing that kind of stuff? Follow us. That's how you find it out. I think that's it. Oh, you can also send us an email at southgatemediagroup@gmail.com. And Chris and I will tweet out like we did this week or put it on Facebook when we are going live. I'm hoping that Tuesday is our next live one. And the chat room will be open. That's it. You got any final thoughts, Chris?
No, I'm just looking forward to seeing what they do, because the last 2 episodes were some of the best of any American Horror Story.
I agree. All right, Chris, back into your rubber suit.